Over just the past 12 hours, federal Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre has seemingly been on a search and destroy mission against all of his political opponents on social media. Even if you're on the left, the one thing that you have to give Pierre Poilievre is he is great at making a political attack. He isolates his target, he personalizes the issues, and then he destroys their reputations. There's a lot of people who are very fighty when it comes to politics, but they fail because they try and take on everyone all at once. Pierre Poilievre is good at picking singular fights, winning, and then moving on to the next person. Oftentimes, people want to take on the whole liberal establishment all at once, and it doesn't work. You got to pick your targets, and you have to win one battle at a time. You don't just push on a front all at once. And that's what Poilievre has done today. So I want to take you on a little bit of a walking tour of the various politicians that he's dunked on today. Let's start with NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, then we'll move on to Housing Minister Sean Fraser, and then finishing up with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself, who gave an utterly weak response to Pierre Poilievre dunking on him. The problem with all these guys, with like Fraser, Singh, and Trudeau, is they rely on the mainstream media to do their fighting for them. They do not know how to fight a political battle of words online themselves. They're waiting for Vashi Kapelos or some other journalist to come in and accuse Pierre Poilievre of something bad, and then they just retweet it and say, that's not very good. When it's an actual one-on-one, these people melt in front of Pierre Poilievre, just showing them their record, just putting their record in their face and saying, you suck at your job. They don't know what to do because they've never actually had to fight their own battles. But let's start off with Jagmeet Singh. A couple hours ago, or a few hours ago, Pierre Poilievre retweeted a video of him going after Singh in the House of Commons, calling him out for having some shady connections to Metro grocery stores through his brother Guritan Singh, which makes Jagmeet Singh's war on the grocery cartels completely hollow, especially since Metro has the highest profit margins of all of the grocery chains. I don't care what their profit margins are. I'm a capitalist. But Jagmeet Singh, the socialist, cares, and it makes it completely hypocritical that for months he refused to talk about Metro grocery store chains, and he mostly just fought Galen Weston and Loblaws because that's the big, scary, juggernaut in the grocery industry, even though they have very middling profit margins, because apparently profit's bad, and if you have too much of it, it's like sin, and you must pay more taxes to the government to pay for your sins. But this is a video that Pierre Poilievre had retweeted from back in May, and then he had then released another new attack shortly thereafter.
NDP leader was just asking about why the Prime Minister gave tens of millions of dollars in corporate handouts to powerful grocery chains.
Stop giving millions of dollars to corporate grocery stores. When will the Liberals, when will the Prime Minister stop giving big grocery a free ride?
The answer, of course, is that he voted to let the Prime Minister do that. Not a single penny of that money could have gone without the vote of the NDP coalition partner. But we learned something else, that this might have been due to the influence of the NDP leader's spokesman and brother, whose company is a lobbyist for Metro.
Fantastic has put the spotlight on Jagmeet Singh, and now for the finisher today, he's now going after and tying Jagmeet and his brother together. Jagmeet's brother is also a crazy Khalistani, so I hope at some point they call that out. So like Guritan Singh is the type of person who I guess apparently doesn't think the Air India bombing is all that bad, and has like this such a hatred for Modi and India that he even though he doesn't watch sports, I've heard, he retweets soccer scores and cricket scores whenever Pakistan beats India. He's an absolute nutcase. And one of the good things from Pierre Poilievre being the federal Conservative Party leader, and I'm saying this as somebody who can make complaints against the federal Conservatives, heck, some of the people in the background of the party kicked me out of the federal Conservative Party nomination in the riding of Calgary-Signal Hill because they feared I was going to beat some preferred candidate in the background, because I 100% could have beat him. He's a complete chump. and I had like 700 to 1,000 supporters, and only about 2,300 people ended up voting between 4 candidates. So I had some clout there. So, but when I'm saying this, I'm not trying to do this because like, oh, I want an in with the Conservatives. I don't really care. Certain people in the party I don't like. Most people in the party like me. I'm doing my own thing here in Abbotsford in British Columbia right now, trying to get the BC Conservatives a win. But one of the great things that Pierre Poilievre has done is he has sidelined, and you'll notice it was from that video is being highlighted, Crestview strategies from federal Conservative Party contracts. Crestview strategies should never be let within the vicinity of the federal Conservatives. Do you know that they are heavily involved in the election campaigns in 21 and 2019 for the federal Conservatives? Do you know who started Crestview, or who at one point was the president? It was Katie Telford, who is currently the Liberals campaign manager or chief of staff or whatever. She's the chief of staff to Justin Trudeau. At one point, Justin Trudeau's chief of staff, Rob Silver, was the number 2 at Crestview alongside Katie Telford. And the Conservatives were stupid enough to hire these people. So that's been a big improvement over from Poilievre. Obviously, I want as few lobbyists involved in parties as humanly possible, not just from the ethical point of view that I don't think that lobbyists should mix directly with parties. Obviously, you have to talk to lobbyists sometimes. The lobbyists represent entire industries often, and that industry is allowed to have a representative in Ottawa to talk to politicians. That's perfectly fine. But the lobbyists shouldn't be running the parties. Not just because of the ethical issues, it's because they suck at politics. Every time you see a campaign run badly, it's because of lobbyists and consultants. Look at the BC United Party. I'm going to make a video on them at some point of how they're the saddest party in Canada. The BC United Party at some point just got taken over by 100% consultants and lobbyists. And their entire convention was just consultants and lobbyists trying to network between each other, and it didn't work because they're all just representing different lobby firms. It's so pathetic. Lobbyists and consultants, all they know how to do is risk management and try and serve their clients. That's the problem when they get involved in politics. Risk management in politics is stupid. Controversy actually gets you attention. You just want to pick a controversial issue that you can win on at the end of the day. But consultants hate that stuff. Sorry, mini rant on consultants there. But now Poilievre is slamming the two of them, and I love that he's now labeling them the NDP grocery kings. Whoever came up with that, molto bene. It's lovely. It's a great way of slamming these two. There's a lot of votes inside the federal NDP that the Conservatives could access because there is still a default blue-collar base that votes for the NDP. But many of these people, I think, can be won over to the federal Conservatives because they don't openly hate blue-collar workers. The federal NDP, Jagmeet Singh, hates blue-collar workers. Look at him showing up to literally any protests. Like, I'm not a big union guy, obviously. If anything, I would say that I'm very anti-union, not in the sense that I think unions shouldn't be able to exist. I don't like the way that unions currently exist in Canada, where they can force you to join, and through some silly, quote-unquote democratic mechanisms, entire industries can become union compulsory. That's silly. That's not pro-worker. That's just pro-union boss. And I think that unions have done a lot to hurt workers. But this is where the federal Conservatives can pick up a lot of union workers. When Jagmeet goes to protest, you can tell he's uncomfortable. Unless they're like white-collar HR people like striking from the CRA, Jagmeet doesn't want to touch them. He thinks they're grubby. They work real jobs, and he thinks that's icky. Oh my goodness, the truckers unions, all these things. He doesn't like it. And so that's where there's a massive opening for the federal Conservatives to take some votes away. But Pierre Poilievre in this post says, Singh's top advisor and brother's company lobbies for grocery giants. No wonder food prices are up 12% since Singh joined Trudeau's government, signed to investigate the NDP grocery kings. It's a petition drive. Obviously, a lot of people, parties do data mining. That's not wrong at all. But now I want to move on to just a quick, brief look at his attack on Sean Fraser, because Sean Fraser is getting uppity, who is just the less charismatic version of Justin Trudeau. He's a little bit taller, but that height apparently means that he has to sacrifice all, individuality. He just does not seem like somebody who does anything without 3 or 4 consultants telling him what to do or getting a direct handwritten letter from Justin Trudeau. That man must have to get Justin on the line just to ask if he can drink a glass of water. That's just how much of a non-entity Sean Fraser is. I remember a year ago, there's this big push like, oh, Sean Fraser, is he the second coming of Justin Trudeau? No. Well, one, Justin Trudeau's not even good in the first place. Why are we trying to hype this up? He was just a name, and then he won the 2015 federal election because Mulcair was boring, and Jenny Byrne ran a terrible federal campaign for Stephen Harper. It was a winnable campaign, but we were running these awful ads like he's just not ready. Just not ready? You're implying he might be ready. Stop it. So I don't like, so this is what I mean when certain people don't like me in the federal Conservative Party. I will call out bad tactics and bad strategies. But here is Pierre Poilievre going after Sean Fraser. And then Sean had written a post, you can see below, that says, home ownership shouldn't be a pipe dream. You shouldn't have to take another job just to make your rent. No Canadian should go to bed without a roof over their head. Over the last year, we've been working to solve the crisis. Here's a recap on some of that work. And when you actually look at the video that Sean Fraser posted, it's like this, like acting like he's like a tough, legislator who's getting things done. Housing starts are down. Maybe I'll have to do a bit of a side swipe on this, but housing starts are down for a reason, and it's because they have absolutely more so, I would just say they're not doing anything. That tax incentives would be the better thing, but they're just burning money, hoping that is going to solve things. Here's a chart some leftist tried to use to prove to me that actually the housing accelerator fund's actually totally working. Maybe let's take a screenshot of the whole thing. But like people are acting like because housing starts are up this year, that means it's been a successful program. It's not been good at all. Here we go. I think they're like housing starts are up 7%, but they were also down last year, and it's also only halfway through the year. But the Housing Accelerator Fund, which has cost billions of dollars, has, made house building go up in Newfoundland, PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Alberta, and Quebec. But then housing starts are down in BC, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So in 2024, we've put up more houses so far than 23. We also have to remember, 23 was a downgrade from 22, and 22 was a downgrade from 21, and we're still not at the end of the year yet. Also, does Quebec and the Alberta provincial governments get the credit for the increased housing starts, or is this federal government? This is what leftists don't seem to understand. They post a chart like this trying to attack me like, oh, well, why? You're actually wrong about the accelerator fund. Well, then why was housing starts down the last 2 years? And now it's up in 2 provinces that Justin Trudeau definitely has nothing to do with in terms of Quebec and Alberta, who tend to take their own paths when it comes to provincial policy. So does Daniel Smith get the win on this, or does Justin Trudeau? It makes no sense to give the win to Justin Trudeau because in Ontario and BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, housing starts are down. And a lot of these other provinces, it's like Newfoundland, where they only built 166 houses last year, so it's easy to improve on that. But so Daniel Smith is obviously the one who caused the 54% increase in house building, because when the similar accelerator policies, which have been actually operating longer in Ontario, it's down 14%. I don't know what to tell people like this. Sean Fraser is a terrible housing minister. He's a terrible politician in general. That's why he failed in immigration. And this is what Pierre Poilievre goes on to mention. Poilievre says in this post, Sean, you have made housing a pipe dream by doubling the costs. You ran immigration out of control, to quote your cabinet colleagues, before you became housing minister and spent billions building bureaucracy. Now you've put out a vanity video of your best photo ops, and then I think he goes on to put a spin on his performance to pretend that anything good has happened. But now we're going to get to the magnum opus of the day, something that Pierre Poilievre had tweeted last night, which has caused not only a big stir back then, but this morning as well, because Justin Trudeau responded. But before I do that, I just quickly want to plug some support links for myself and others. So I have a legal fund that is in the description of this video below. If you guys go and click, see more on the details of the video, you can see the link to the Give, Send, Go campaign. We're raising money because we have a Chinese billionaire suing us over literally nothing. He's suing us over for defamation over an article that we wrote back in August of 2020, which after 2.5 years of him pursuing this case, he only started suing us in the year 2021 in December, so it wasn't bothering him that much for an entire year and a half, in which we said nothing new about the guy because we hyperlinked to a Globe and Mail article that had every claim that we were referencing in it. He's suing us for defamation, and in 2.5 years has not even proven that we defamed him. He's had any damages dealt to him by us or anything. He's just simply suing because in the province of Alberta, where this was filed, because that's where I usually live, there's no anti-SLAPP laws, so there's no ability for me to push away the lawsuit and show a judge that this is ridiculous, which means the lawsuit can go on for years. So if you guys can contribute anything to that, it really helps me out. But if you live in British Columbia, I'm also helping fundraise for Bruce Banman in the riding of Abbotsford South for the BC Conservative Party. The only advantage the BC NDP has over the Conservatives at this point is the money advantage. If you live here, donate to that. We're going to try and collect up a war chest where we don't need the vast majority of the money we take in, but we're going to package up money and send it to other ridings where we know a win can be secured on the riding level. So if you live in BC, if you donate $100 to us, you get $75 back in a tax credit, so it only costs you $25 to give us $100. And if you donate up to $550, you get half of it back in a tax credit, 33% for anything past the 550 mark. So it kind of works in stages. You get 75 back up to 100. Then after that, you get 50% back up to 550. And then after 550, you get 33% of it back. So that's also linked in the description below. Donate if you can. You don't have to live in Abbotsford to donate here because we're going to be distributing the money to whoever needs it. Anyways, now on to the main event here, which is Pierre Poilievre dunking on Justin Trudeau for his praise of communist regimes like China, his weeping over Fidel Castro, who's totally not his dad. I actually don't believe he's his dad, but it's a funny meme. So Justin Trudeau obviously has a bad record when it comes to praising left-wing dictatorships. And Pierre Poilievre posted this: "Sign here to have prime minister who doesn't admire basic communist dictatorships." Oh, I'm not sure why I'm flubbing that this late in the video. And he posts that with a graphic that says how to do communism with a photo or a picture of Karl Marx's head in the middle. And at the top it says, "Establish a new communist utopia. Rob or kill the successful. Force the rest to work for free. Run out of food, starve to death. Say it wasn't real communism." And then it cycles back at starting a communist utopia. And I find it very funny that this got on the nerves of people like Max Fawcett, this very left-wing journalist from the National Observer. Of course, he's not a socialist if you ask him. At the same time, he gets very mad if you criticize socialism or you make any socialist memes or anything like that. And he just said, "Weird AF." Trying to jump on the Kamala Harris DNC bandwagon from down in the United States of calling J.D. Vance and Trump weird because that's all they really have is just shouting weird all the time. You know, Justin Trudeau is obviously not a weirdo. Justin Trudeau, he's your social better. He's a good person. Not Pierre Poilievre, who doesn't wear glasses and used to wear glasses and is weird because, I don't know, he talks about inflation. I've not really seen the weirdness from Pierre Poilievre yet, but I see it all the time with Justin Trudeau. But before we get to Justin Trudeau's very weak response, I want to jump over to the video of Justin Trudeau because everyone's pretending like, oh, what's Pierre Poilievre talking about? This doesn't make sense. Why is he talking about communism? Is he accusing Justin Trudeau of being a communist? He makes his accusation very clear there that Justin Trudeau is someone who praises basic communist dictatorships. But here's the clip that substantiates that Trudeau has said things that are that crazy. So here's a video of Terry Milewski covering a Justin Trudeau event back in 2013. And, back when the CBC had good journalists like Terry Milewski. But I'll let this play for a second. And I just realized my computer is about to run out of power. I'm going to go get a charger in the middle of this. Anyways, bear with me here, guys. Here's Terry Milewski explaining it.
Trudeau's meeting last week with a group of Toronto women was an example. Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fastest. We need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
You can even tell that he knew what he was saying was extremely stupid there, which is why he jumped over to saying, well, Stephen Harper wishes he could be a dictator. Yeah, Paul, he had been in power since 2006. He was clearly not trying to become a dictator. He had enough time to try and do it, and never happened. But Trudeau starts trying to buy it back. And it wasn't like he just said, oh, I admire China because they've been able to turn their economy around on a dime and invest in green tech or whatever. Because you could say he's just admiring the results of whatever they're doing, and he's just ignorant of the communistic dictatorship of China. No, though, he actually name checks the fact that it's a basic dictatorship. Things do not go, like, there's not a lot of blood getting to his brain. You can just tell. He is not exactly a worthy opponent. What Justin Trudeau has that keeps him in power is he has name recognition. He has, the brand of the Trudeau name, which comes along with his name recognition. He's kind of energetic, at least back then. These days, he's rusty and weird, like actually just weird. Like he just talks like an AI whenever he's at press conferences. I mean, he's rusty. He's not fast on his feet. That Keean Bexte interview where Keean Bexte ambushed him on the beach was probably the first time that Trudeau seemed to be somewhat like, living. Like if you stuck him with a needle, he might react, because most of the time he just seems like a robot these days. But back then, he had some energy, and that's what made him like popular. But even back then, it was not the brain that was getting him absolutely any of his support. He is a retail, pure vibes politician. But now let's jump over to Justin Trudeau's response to what Pierre Poilievre said. And he said, I think this guy needs to touch grass. Now, if I'm Trudeau's advisor, would I tell him to respond to this? No. Other times it's good to respond or counterpunch. So there's no room here to counterpunch, because they can keep playing videos of you praising China's basic dictatorship all day. One, what do you really respond to this with? It looks like you're getting down in the mud with somebody who can easily fight this battle better than you can. And I think this guy needs to touch grass is a just limp, just response. I read that and I'm like, oh goodness, even if I told you to respond, I could have thought of something better than this guy needs to touch grass. Justin Trudeau needs to resign. Like, that's what I ended up posting. I just quote tweeted Justin Trudeau and I said, I think this guy needs to resign. He's just so bad at this. He doesn't know what to do. And the thing is, you can tell, you can tell from the responses when you actually go through the responses of all of the people dunking on this guy. It has not been friendly to him. All of these people who are just able to slash and burn Justin for every single thing he said. Like this.
Get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk. We need to be strong in the.
It's Justin Trudeau that needs to be. It's Pierre Poilievre that needs to touch grass, not Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau's very in touch. He lives in the real world, and that's why he's at 23% in the polls, while Pierre Poilievre's at 42%. I don't know what to tell him. You're not very popular. But anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. It's been a fun day on social media. I believe it'll probably stay like this. This is where I'm actually happy Canadian politics is becoming a little bit more American. Most of the time, Canadian politics, we got to go over to Canadian politics' house and check its pulse, because usually it's boring. And when it's boring, that means nobody's talking about issues. When it's exciting, when people are throwing punches, at least we start talking about issues. At least politics actually starts to rank above mindless entertainment in Canada. You could argue that in America, politics becomes mindless entertainment in a certain sense. That's kind of toxic, but at least I find people who vote in the United States, I'm not trying to insult people here, but people who vote in the United States can probably tell you the bills that they're really mad about, the executive orders that the president used that they're unhappy with or they're happy with. In Canada, it's really, you would be shocked. And I've knocked on thousands and thousands of doors across Calgary and now in BC. And a lot of people just don't know what the issues are. And it's not their fault. It's because the media coverage of politics in Canada is disgustingly slow. There's nothing going on. They give no interest to it. They just give you this is the false neutrality they give. A horrible bill, a censorship bill will come forward, and you'll have the most boring reporter come on screen and say, okay, the Liberals are pushing forward Bill C-18, the Online News Act, and it's meant to get Canadian journalists paid so that they can make more money, or what? And it's like, oh, good, have somebody on that's interesting, who can debate this topic. The amount of real debates that happens on the CBC, CTV News, Global, City News is nothing. There's nothing being said on it at all. And people don't, because there's no good commentary. Nobody knows what's in these bills. They're awful. Bill C-18 is the reason I can't access my Facebook page anymore. And if you watch the media, you wouldn't even know that happened. Anyways, okay, so that's truly done for me. It's truly done for me now today. So if you guys want to donate to my Give, Send, Go, if you don't live in British Columbia, that really helps me out with legal costs. They mount up every once in a while. We're $32,000 into this legal case. It cost me, a gut punch of $5,000 every couple of months or so. Every few months, it just randomly pops back up that the case is back on, although the guy who's suing us, Ted Joe, is now ducking and weaving, trying to not pursue the case, because I think he found out that if he loses, he actually might owe us double or triple our legal costs, which means I'll probably try and circle back and pay anyone back who ended up contributing quite a bit. But if you live in British Columbia, go down to the donation link for Abbotsford South riding, Bruce Banman's riding, donate $100, $550, anything that gets you a good tax credit back, because the one thing that we need to beat the BC NDP is money. $100 is a great donation. If everyone gave us $100, we'd be way more funded than we need to be. But just donating anything helps us sort of close the gap. The BC NDP has this ridiculous campaign fundraising rule that makes it so that when after an election, you get 33% of the money back, of your money back. I think the BC Conservatives, they only got 2% in the last election, got $56,000 or something like that. The BC NDP got like millions of dollars back. Plus, in all of the ridings, either they won or across the entire province, no matter if they won or lost, they get like $1.56 given to their party every year per vote that they got. That's insane. That's just trying to keep the establishment in place by making it so it's very easy for them to get fully funded for an election. But if you're an upstart party like the BC Conservatives, you got nothing. So that's why you guys contributing really helps us out. It's not just that the BC NDP raised $2 million last quarter and we raised 1.1. They raised $2 million on top of all the money that BC taxpayers have to give them. It's insane. Anyways, look at that. You can also go look up my website, WyattClaypool.com. Join the email list so I can reach out to you no matter what part of the country you're in. If there's an interesting race going on in your area, I can give you little, indicators of who's a good candidate, who maybe you should vote for. A great candidate now running in Ellington, Lawrence, whatever place in Ontario. Andrew Lawton from True North, from the Andrew Lawton Show, is running for the federal Conservatives. He's a great candidate, very principled, social conservative, fiscal conservative. I would like to see him as the minister of defunding the CBC. So if he wins that nomination, maybe we can actually see that materialize someday. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Finally, for the third time I'm saying that. See you guys later.